What just happened? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Fourth and Troll Fantasy, most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. I am Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And we are back, and it's playoff time. And we had a crazy week 14 highlighted, put on blast by a handful of great performances. We're going to I'm lost for words. I don't even have them. What a crazy week.
One of the greatest weeks of fantasy I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't have words. Like, multiple records broken, some of the best plays I've ever seen, some of the fastest players I've ever seen run. Shout out Khalil Shakir. Dude, that run after catch. Sorry, I didn't even plan on talking about this early, but that was I was like, since when is Tyreek Hill a light-skinned dude who plays on the Buffalo Bills now? Like, what just happened? This is crazy. Like, the burst on that was nuts.
Amazing game there.
We're gonna let some guys take a bow here and in just a little bit, but we're gonna recap week 14, talk about all the players we need to talk about, break down some performances. Gonna give you a waiver wire here. Obviously, let some guys take a bow, like I just mentioned, a victory lap, and we're gonna break down a Thursday Night Football divisional matchup. It's going to be a good time. Before we do all that, make sure you're following us on all of our socials. All that is linked down below. If you want a chance to win a signed James Cook jersey, despite his performance this week, we are able. We're giving that away over at our Patreon, patreon.com/fourthandtrollfantasy. You can join our community Discord that way, and you're eligible to win a signed James Cook jersey that we're giving away at the end of the season, just 3 weeks away. So it's going to be a good time. We got merch, fourthandtrollstore.com. for all your holiday needs.
Hell yeah.
Like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And let's talk about some news, Wes, before we jump into things.
Okay, so first things first. Did you hear that the 49ers have a couple of running backs that are injured? Let's add one more to that list. Isaac Guerendo, sprained foot, likely going to miss next week. Nothing official as of when we're recording right now, but we're going to talk about his backup, obviously, in the waiver wire segment, so stick around for that. And then also, because, most of you know I live in California, guess what I heard? If you can carry a football and you're in the Santa Clara area, please report the 49ers facility ASAP, chef or running back, because they need help. And yet somehow he's still going to get 30 points. Whoever the running back is next week for the Niners are going to get 30 points. Speaking of great running backs that are hurt, Bucky Irving was dealing with a back injury, even though he was already dealing with a hip injury, and he missed most of the game. He played a few snaps in Sunday's game. Back tightness is what Todd Bowles says it is. Already questionable for next week. Awesome. Playoffs, off to a great start. Dallas Goedert, before the game, placed on IR, going to miss the rest of the fantasy season. Cal Katera is the tight end for the Eagles, who had a nice little touchdown. I can't remember how to pronounce his last name. Desmond Ridder took over for Aiden O'Connell, who suffered a bone bruise, and he's unlikely to play next week. They thought it was a season-ending knee injury, but it's not official yet. He could still play at some point, but for the foreseeable future, Desmond Ridder will be the starting quarterback for the Vegas Raiders. Good for them. Speaking of former Raiders quarterbacks, Derek Carr, he attempted to leap for a first down. Did you see how that happened? He dove for anyway, he landed on his hand.
He channeled Cam Newton is what he did.
Yeah, and they fractured his hand, and he's done for the season. And as of now, the quarterback has been named. I imagine they'll go with Spencer Rattler just to see what they got in the rookie, but a high prospect. But that's that for the Saints. Brian Dable clarified. Drew Lock still the starter going forward, barring any health concerns. George Pickens dealing with a grade 2 hamstring injury. He's also questionable for week 1 of playoffs. Will Dissly going to miss at least several weeks with a shoulder injury. Jonathan Brooks, F's in the chats. Grab your trumpets. Play taps.
This is so sad, dude.
It's tragic. Retore the same ACL that he was trying to come back from in college. Could have been a first-round pick. Injury. Anyway, I don't know if it would have been first round, but he was one of the highest prospects for running backs, done for the year. and going to miss a lot of next season as well. That's it for him. And the last piece here of the news, Kenneth Walker having tests done on his calf to determine whether or not he is going to be in the backfield, which is hopefully good news for Zach Charbonnet owners if he does not play. If he does, it's great news for Kenneth Walker owners because he's also great. Seahawks has a great backfield. That's it for the news. Now, quick little victory lap Tuesday, which is brought to you by only Noah Selby. I've got one. Noah, you crushed it for this last week of the regular season.
Thanks, dude. Don't mind me, by the way. I just got a notification that my AirPods are gonna die, so I had to.
You charging?
I had to throw a charging cable into my PlayStation and just turn it on so that I can continue to hear everybody. But
I get my controller. We can play Madden. If you want.
Yeah, let's do it. Just screw the episode. Yeah. Great week. Victory lap. Here we go. Called out Sam Darnold as a stud. Looked at the matchup. Said, I think he's due. I think he's been really good. And I think he's going to be really good this week. He was the QB2 on the week. Scored, 44.6 fantasy points, 347 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That was awesome.
Holy smokes.
Like I picked him up because I didn't know he was available. In the Creators League that we're in, West, last minute, I was scrolling and looking. I was like, oh my gosh, he's here. Like, we need to roll this out.
Playoffs.
Put up 156 points. Playoffs. Put up 156 points. Still lost. Our opponent scored like 175 or something like that. Yeah. Crazy stuff. But that was awesome. Hey, how about Adam Thielen? Talked about him after his first weekend on his return. Said he's going to be the main guy here, and we've seen him be successful. He's had 2 weeks in a row now with over 10 targets or more. Nearly 20 fantasy points in both games. He was the wide receiver 16 in full PPR on the week. So he's awesome, and he should be able to be continued to roll out as a flex play going forward here. And then Jalen Waddle. I willed it into existence, man. I said, hey, I gotta roll out Jalen Waddle here. Still didn't get me the win. RIP, Lad McConkey. But my opponent scored like 175 points again. It was great. This was the week of me scoring like 140 or more and still losing. Right. It was awesome. It was great. And luckily, I had playoff spots kind of secured there. But Jalen Waddle, great week, stud week. 20.9 fantasy points, 9 catches on 12 targets for 99 yards. We're going to talk about him and Fluke for real. And I'm going to need some of your insight, Wes, because I don't know what I'm going to do with Jalen Waddle. Caleb Williams, I called him a dud. Said the Niners have been good. He's been good. A little bit worried here. Finishes in QB 17. Had a better second half than the first half, but the concern that was present in the pre-draft process was that he plays his best when plays break down, and I don't know how often that's going to happen in the NFL for him. And so it didn't equal out there. And then in that same game, Deebo Samuel, I called him a dud. He'll come up in our Thursday Night Football preview, but that was a great call there. And
nice tease.
Wes?
Yes.
Take it away.
Isaiah Pacheco is not a league-winning running back. You should not have started him. I said he was a dud. Single-digit points.
Yeah.
That's it on my side. Victor Love Tuesday, innit? Woo!
Come on now. Listen, let's take a moment here. We just want to provide a moment here for all the fantasy players out here. For their the players on their rosters, let's let these guys take a bow. Starting out, we just want to talk about some guys that these guys may have saved your season. Season on the line, you needed big performances, and these guys gave them to you. Record-breaking performances. Start out with Josh Allen. 57.9 fantasy points. 57.88 fantasy points. 342 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. 82 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. First player in NFL history to throw for 3 touchdowns and rush for 3 touchdowns in the same game. Highest scoring quarterback performance in fantasy history. If you had him, plain and simple, you won. Like, there's no way around it. You won if you had Josh Allen. Puka Nacua. Gotta love him. 41.8 fantasy points for Puka Nacua. 12 catches, 14 targets, 162 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Then he had 16 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Awesome stuff from Puka Nacua. Full insight here. I had a team that scored 211 points this weekend. And this was just your standard lineup: quarterback 2, running back 2, wide receiver, tight end, flex, kicker, defense. Scored 211 on the back of Josh Allen and Puka Nacua and Justin Jefferson, and it was
my goodness,
pretty ridiculous.
You know something great about Puka Nacua? He missed a lot of games. Wide receiver 27. Wide receiver 27. This guy is insane.
What an animal. What an animal.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold, already mentioned him. Sam Darnold, take a bow. 44.5 fantasy points. You look at Sam Darnold and go 347 and 5 touchdowns. QB1 of the week. Psych. Josh Allen did it. His wide receiver, Jordan Addison, 39.3 fantasy points, a hat trick of touchdowns. 8 for 133 and 3 touchdowns for him. Zach Charbonnet, off the waiver wire. A handcuff desperation play. 38.3 fantasy points, 22 carries for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. He has 7 catches for 59 yards. That is Christian McCaffrey level production from a guy that came off the waiver wire and that you were crossing your fingers for, that he could fill the role that you needed this week.
Oh, yeah.
Another guy here right off the waiver wire, Isaac Guerendo, the number 1 waiver wire option, turns into the RB2 on the week, just behind Zach Charbonnet, with 26.8 fantasy points on 15 carries for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns and 2 catches for 50 yards. And the top performance by a San Francisco running back on the season, because that makes sense. Because that's how that goes. Is Isaac Guerendo is the top scoring fantasy running back for the San Francisco 49ers this season. And then you needed a Monday Night Miracle from Jamar Chase. You're probably sitting there down 40, just hoping. Just Jamar Chase, I need the game of your life. 45.1 fantasy points. 14 for 177 and 2 receiving touchdowns. This quarterback did awesome. Jamar Chase did great as well. All those guys, take a bow. You saved people's seasons. Congratulations if you started those guys. You won your week. Now, excuse me. I'm parched.
Yeah. I'm just going to sit here awkwardly. Oh, he's like, for those that didn't watch, Noah's like actually struggling. You all right? You okay?
Yeah, I am. I've got a little bit of a sore throat right now. For no reason whatsoever.
No reason at all?
Okay. But no reason at all, dude. And I just got a sore throat. I'm a little sick, and I'm working through it. But we're here. We're getting people into the playoffs. Here we go. Let's jump into the waiver wire here real quick, Wes, because there's a handful of guys here. I know you're probably thinking, who is starting a waiver wire player in week 1 of the playoffs? Probably no one, but maybe you might be, and that might be Isaac Guerendo, or that might be his backup, because we're going to talk about them here in just a second. But let's jump into the waiver wire here, Wes. A few guys to talk about. I'm going to run through them real quick. Kendre Miller, not San Francisco.
Whoa.
Kendre Miller, New Orleans Saints, second-year running back. They love this guy. They do. They took him last year. He's had some health issues. When he's gotten his opportunities, he's been really, really solid. He's been really great in limited work. And he's Alvin Kamara's handcuffs. So if he's out there on your waiver wire, I think you need to grab him. They gave him good opportunities. He played substantially less snaps than Kamara, but still only had 7 less carries. Kamara had 17. Kendre Miller had 10. So definitely an interesting guy to look at here if they maybe want to give Kamara some rest, or maybe he carves out a role here with the opportunities being opened up with the amount of skill players that are kind of just on the fritz. What are they doing here in New Orleans? He's an option there. So see if he's out on your waiver wire. He's a good option here. Now let's talk about the San Francisco backfield. There's Patrick Taylor and there's Israel Abanikanda. We got to talk about both of these guys here. Isaac Guerendo, like we mentioned, is hurt. Now, we're uncertain. He's supposed to be day-to-day. I don't know if I trust anything Shanahan says this season. Shanahan has said he's day-to-day, and we're going to see if he has a shot to play on Thursday. That doesn't sound too optimistic to me. Guerendo, however, said on Sunday after the game, just precautionary, keeping me out. I'm good to go. So we'll see how things pan out here. But in the instance that Isaac Guerendo is not available for Thursday night's game against the Los Angeles Rams, there's Patrick Taylor, and it's Israel Abanikanda. I prefer Patrick Taylor if you're going to have one of the two. But I think both should be rostered in case this becomes a longer-term thing. You need to feel out what's going to happen here in the San Francisco backfield. You may go, Patrick Taylor and Israel Abanikanda, what do you mean? I mean, they're the San Francisco running backs, so that's how it happens. Isaac Guerendo was the RB2 on the week. And he is a start of the year as a fourth string running back for the San Francisco 49ers. So guys to monitor there and good options there in case Guerrero misses time. Another guy here I want to talk about, Sincere McCormick. He is potentially the RB1 for the Raiders. We don't really know. Zamir White has missed some time. Alexander Mattison has missed some time. I'm watching for Alexander Mattison this week because he was limited this week. He was apparently close to playing, so we're not entirely sure. But Antonio Pierce loves this guy, Sincere McCormick, and he's very efficient. He does well. He scored 11 fantasy points with very little PPR value. But he's a guy that can probably, if you're desperate, you need him. If you're in a 32-man league like I am, he might sneak his way into your starting lineup. He might be an option there. So guy to watch out for there, and he's widely available. And then we mentioned George Pickens. I don't know if he's going to miss time. The word right now is it's a grade 2 hamstring strain. Not entirely sure what's going to happen here. I've looked it up. Good old Dr. Google has said the recovery time can be anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. That would suck for George Pickens owners. So if you're in need, you could look for Mike Williams or Scotty Miller. They both led the team in targets in the wide receiver room. But I'm going to be honest, if you have to start one of these guys week 1 of the playoffs, I'm sorry. Like, it's not going to work out for you. But these are guys that could see expanded opportunities. So guys to monitor there. That's it. Crazy waiver wire going into the playoffs, man. I don't really know what we're doing here, but this is going to be
just to have something out there.
Watch Mike Williams win people leagues this year. How crazy. Ridiculous. That would be ridiculous. All right, let's jump into Fluke for real, Wes. We're going into the playoffs. Okay. There's some guys to talk about. Going to talk about the good performances. And we're going to talk about some bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start out with Rachaad White. 24.9 fantasy points, 17 carries, 90 yards, and a touchdown. 2 catches for 19 yards and a receiving touchdown. Where are we at with Rachaad White?
If Bucky Irving misses time, I think Rachaad White is considered a must start. I'll go that far. Obviously, Rachaad White has had some great games, and we've seen his talent last season and even a little bit in his rookie year behind Leonard Fournette. So Rachaad White is no fluke. This year has been up and down because of that backfield, but if Bucky Irving misses time, I think Rachaad White has at least earned a flex option, if not your RB2.
Sure. I think I would agree. I think he is, if Bucky's out, he's usable 100%, and he had one of his better games on the ground against the Raiders. So good stuff there. His teammate, rookie wide receiver Jalen McMillan, 21.9 fantasy points, 4 catches on 7 targets for 59 and 2 touchdowns. What do we think with Jalen McMillan, Wes?
I can't imagine that Jalen McMillan is going to be starting in my fantasy playoffs. Like Mike Evans had a down week. Kate Otten, we answered that a couple weeks ago. That's for real. Kate Otten's done, but I can't imagine that Jalen McMillan is a viable option. So this is fun to see. He's a handcuff at best. So I think this is a fluke.
Yeah, maybe this was a good sign for the dynasty owners who snuck into playoffs and maybe have George Pickens, but Jalen McMillan is available for them on their roster. Maybe he's a guy that you can put him in the lineup and hope, but yeah, I mean it's over half his production came on the 2 touchdowns. He caught 4 balls, so it's I don't know if we're necessarily buying fully into that, but so I would agree with you there. Jawan Jennings, 28 fantasy points. Wes,
this guy,
where are we at?
I can see this being for real. I don't want to because he's been so fluky. He's had some incredible games, and he's had a couple weeks in a row that were good, and then he just disappeared. And now he's really back for I don't know why. So I can see an argument that Jawan Jennings belongs in starting lineups, especially in what feels like 49ers have to win out in order to have a shot at playoffs because of how tight the division is and where the NFC records are. Like, there's basically one playoff spot left because of the NFC North. So if you're not winning the division, you're pretty much out. So I can see Jawan Jennings being a heavily favored target for Brock Purdy. And we'll see what that looks like Thursday night, but I can hear the case, and I'll go as far as say this is for real.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about him on our Thursday night preview, but this is absolutely for real. He got
Sweet.
injured. He missed a little time. They had their bye week. In that, Brandon Ayuk got hurt. Since he came back from the bye, 16.3 was the wide receiver 16. 25.1 was the wide receiver 7. 9 points was the wide receiver 43 with Brandon Allen.
Right.
8.6 points was wide receiver 53 in a blizzard. Comes back against a great Chicago Bears passing defense. 28 fantasy points, wide receiver 6 on the week. In his games since returning from the bye with no Brandon Ayuk, 11 targets, 8 targets, 7 catches, 10 catches, 7 catches, 93 yards, 91 yards, 90 yards, and 3 touchdowns in those 3 games. He's going to be a league winner. Screw you, Devo. This guy's awesome.
Ooh, I like that.
I love it. I love Juwan Jennings, man. Let's talk about Devontae Adams here, Wes. 25.9 fantasy points. We talked about him last week. It was like, you can start him if you feel like it, but you may be looking at not great stuff here. What do you think with Adams? Because I have thoughts. I want to hear yours.
Yeah. My reaction to this game is that the Jets offense is starting to gel far a little too late. But I can understand that Devontae Adams gets double-digit targets in addition to Garrett Wilson also getting double-digit targets. Does not make me feel like Adams had a good game and Wilson must have had a bad game. They both had great games, both had 20 plus points. So I can understand that this is for real. And you might as well. I mean, you don't want to, but you might as well roll out Devontae Adams. How do you feel?
Yeah, I think I agree. It's tough, but over the last 5 weeks, 11 targets, 13 targets, 7, and then 12 and 11. I don't think you can bench a guy getting those kind of looks. And I think
he's still good.
He's I think he's a flex play. Yeah, but 22 points, 9.1, 13.2, 17.6, 25.9. Like 4 out of those 5 games, like 3 out of those 5 games, you're happy. 4 out of those 5, you're fine or better. And even 9.1, it's like, okay, bummer. But also it's like, it didn't like probably like it's fine.
Yeah.
Like it's whatever.
Based
like
on how he was
it is what it is
with the Raiders this year. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Three touchdowns in his last 5 games, and he gets Jacksonville next week. Like that's a great matchup. So it's definitely going to be probably a lot of comments on socials, on TikTok potentially of Devontae Adams or this guy or that kind of thing. So we'll look out for those this week. But let's see, Jalen Waddle, Wes. I told you I need your help. 20.9 fantasy points, 9 for 99. And a 2-point conversion is how he got those extra points there on 12 targets. Yep. What do we do with Jalen Waddle? Because I roster him in a lot of places, and I need to figure out if I can roll him out or not.
So here's the playoff schedule for Jalen Waddle. Houston Texans, first week of playoffs. And then the next round are the 49ers. And then the championship are the Cleveland Browns. I think week 15, this first week of playoffs, you can start him. Week 16, you do not need to start him. And then if you make championships with Jalen Waddle, then I think you can start him against that Browns defense.
Okay.
This is on and then off and then on. But I understand that there are plenty of receivers that you can have more confidence in because this is Jalen Waddle's first game with double-digit targets. And sure, Tyreek Hill is on the team, but it's not been Tyreek Hill's fault. It's Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane's fault that no one has done well. So it's amazing to see Tyreek Hill have a good game as well. And Jonnu Smith didn't do anything until literally after the game ended. It went into overtime before Jonnu Smith had his first catch, and then second catch and third catch for the game-winning touchdown. So that's my answer. Next week, yes. Next week, no. Final week, yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's really interesting. I just looked it up. He's the wide receiver 6 over the last 3 weeks. I hate it. I hate having to make this decision. But I think here's the thing. I think with we're Dolphins fans, so I don't want to come off as biased here. But with how Tua is kind of cooking here, I think it's. And here's the thing: I think McDaniel is just kind of like, well, we can't run the ball anymore, so we're just gonna kind of pass. Achan's fine, but he's just getting stuffed, man, and it's just,
dude.
He can break off a couple, but like, it kind of sucks. But it's like, I don't know, like it. I think, oh man, it's tough. I think it's gonna be good. I think it could be a good game against Houston for sure.
Shout out to my friend Chandler, who's also a Dolphins fan. He and I were texting after the game. He says over Tua's last 4 games, he's averaged 325 yards per game, 75% completion, and has thrown 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That's amazing. And
he's on track to break Drew Brees' record for completion percentage, by the way.
And sure, he missed some games too. But that being said, I responded and said, Achan has, in that same span, 4-game span, last 4 games, Devon Achan has averaged 2.8 yards a carry and only 35 yards a game rushing, but has 21 catches, 157 yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. This Dolphins offense cannot run. They are only pass first. And so that gives me more reason to say Jalen Waddle, week 15 and week 17, you start him and you win.
All right. I'll trust you.
Let's see. Boy. Do it for me.
Next guy here, Roma Dunze, 20.2 fantasy points. Didn't we just do this? Oh, no, that was Jalen McMillan. Sorry, 4 catches for 2 touchdowns. I got confused.
Yeah.
It's just,
yeah.
Sorry. Like great showing from the rookie. Awesome. Great touchdown in the corner of the end zone. Good stuff. But it's,
you're a next year guy.
Yeah. Get Keenan Allen out of there, and then you're going to be, it'll be a stud for sure. Khalil Shakir, 21.6 fantasy points. I mentioned him already once. Huge breakaway, 50-yard touchdown. I gotta hand it to you. I gotta give you flowers, dude. You called it out from the offseason. I was much more of a Curtis Samuel guy. I said I'll trust the guy more that I've seen do it before than I won't. And I don't know if he's like what's the OC's name? Joe Brady. Yeah, he must have like slept with his wife or something, dude. Because I don't know what happened. But Curtis Samuel is not seeing the field this season. So I'm just going to assume infidelity and just roll with it from there, because
that's always
it's
what
just,
you should assume.
Yeah, right. Yeah. 21.6 fantasy points. This is for real with Shakir. I mean, this is just, the floor has always been there. So one of the safest floors in fantasy. Like if you need a 10-point guy like Shakir, throw him in the lineup. Boom. And then this is the ceiling. If he finds the end zone, this is the kind of guy that you have. Like this is like, he is one of the best flex plays. What is he? Are you looking up his stats in the? I want to know what he is. He's got to be better than wide receiver 22 on the season, right?
So I'll look that up, because I was looking at his actual stats over the entire year, and Khalil Shakir has only had 2 single-digit games the entire season, which has been phenomenal. And full PPR, I should mention. But yeah, as you mentioned with Shakir, he's wide receiver 22.
Dude, I nailed it. That was awesome. That was so good.
That was awesome. Wide receiver 22 after the full regular season. So Shakir has had a really safe floor. This kind of 20-point performance is what I think concerns me. That's the fluke. I'm not going to consider him a playoff hero. Sure. So I go to say that's a fluke. But if you need a flex play, you want to make sure you can get double digits across all positions. Shakir is your guy. And I love him. I don't know what he's going to do next season, because, again, Keon Coleman was out. So there's Dalton Kincaid. So there's a couple reasons that kind of factors in. But
this was still a game where Amari Cooper had 15 targets, which that was great out of nowhere. Thanks, Josh Allen, douche. Gosh, that was ridiculous. I just got over telling this guy to take a bow, and I'm like, you suck.
Yeah, well, when you have to score 40 points to win and you still lose.
And you still lose,
someone's going to get 15 targets.
Dude,
but
McDermott is such an idiot. What a dumb... Dude, him calling a QB sneak with like a minute left and then calling his timeout. Dude, that was a fireball. That's an Eberflus move. That's ridiculous. Last guy here to talk about... I don't. Juwan Johnson, 15 fantasy points. 4 for 50 and a touchdown. I'd be a little encouraged if it wasn't going to be like Jake Haener or Spencer Radler. going forward.
I don't know.
But Derek Carr's
like,
out. So I don't know. Like, again, it's one of those things where it's like there's no weapons. So like maybe, but like,
yeah,
are you playing him in round one of the playoffs?
Right. It's like MVS for the tight end position.
Right.
Ironically, on the same team. Like, MVS has been kind of fine for, all things considered. But
we started MVS in the Creators League and he got us 9 points. Like, it was like, okay.
Yeah. It was like, right. I would look at it, I was like, that's a lot for that guy. So I don't know. Name me anyone that has made playoffs and is considering Juwan Johnson in their lineup.
Yeah, I think we can just say Kyle Pitts owners have they made playoffs? I actually don't know. I don't know if Kyle Pitts owners have made playoffs.
Shout out to my friend Chandler again. He did not with Kyle Pitts on his starting lineup.
Oh, okay.
No, he's been struggling with Cade Otton, but he still made playoffs. But he made playoffs because Cade Otton was so great. But I remember so distinctly. He said Kyle Pitts is a league winner. He's going to score the most points of all tight ends. I put him as tight end too. I think you also had him over there. Kirk Cousins was supposed to make Kyle Pitts the guy. So maybe that's the only person that's looking at Juwan Johnson and like, I don't know. I'd rather have him than Kyle Pitts. But like, you see Pitts is available in a couple leagues. So that if Juwan Johnson can do not this again, if he can do 20 points. Then we'll talk about whether or not this guy can be starting in a fantasy playoffs matchup.
Yeah, I agree. Kyle Pitts isn't even on our breakdown. I just hate that guy, dude.
Dude, there's got to be no way anyone's drafting him next year.
What a poor situation. And I don't even know what the reason is.
I can't explain it.
Freak of nature, athlete. What's it like? I know Kirk has been rough, and it's like he had 6 targets in this game, so like okay, but like
you tell me if in defense of Kirk Cousins, you tell me Drake London's the wide receiver 8 on this season, and where's Darnell Mooney, wide receiver 16? So Kirk is slinging it. So I think we have to.
He hasn't thrown a touchdown. That's my thing there. But I don't know. Let's see, because it's been. I want to look at. Sorry, I'm blinding people by having this huge white screen on my face right now. But
that's pretty great to look at.
When did Kirk stop throwing touchdowns?
I don't know. Kyle Pitts is 12,
5 weeks
in targets among all tight ends in the season, which is fine.
When I want to just confirm here when Kirk really started to really fall out, because it's been
okay. You looked that up.
It's been since week 10. Yeah, so since week 10, 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. So
that's nuts. 4 in one game.
Yeah,
but
Drake London is the wide receiver 27 over the last 4 weeks.
Interesting.
Since week 10.
Right before the football season started, I still read something from the Falcons beat reporters on training camp, and it was like Drake London's getting targeted like crazy, and Kyle Pitts is not. And I wonder what that means. And you were like, "Don't read into that. It's Kyle Pitts."
That was in our I Wonder episode. Yeah,
and
our What If episode. Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Kyle Pitts is going to go in like the 10th round next year. Anyway, that's a great transition into. Yeah. Some big guys.
Some big guys. Let's talk about some big guys. Bad guy, because there's really only one guy to talk about here. We were going to talk about AJ Brown, but it's like, are you going to bench AJ Brown in week 1 of the playoffs? Probably not. We were going to talk about James Cook, but it was going to be like, are you going to bench James Cook round 1 of the playoffs? No. So we're going to talk to you about a guy here that you could make a decision on, and it's DK Metcalf. 8.9 fantasy points. Now, as Wes so astutely pointed out 2 weeks ago, DK Metcalf cannot ball against the Arizona Cardinals. He has never scored 15 fantasy points against them. He does it yet again. I don't know what it is. They have his number. It's 14. It's on his jersey. Check it out. But they can't. He can't score. He can't play against him. Now, here's the thing. I believe the tide has shifted, because there's another wide receiver on this team that is the wide receiver 5 on the season.
Who is that?
JSN.
Is there someone that's really good? Oh. Yeah.
His name rhymes with KFM and or Caxton, Smith, and Jigba. That's
and Jackson spelled normally, right? Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay.
JSN's been
Did not
awesome
know he was going to be this
since
great.
week 8 or since week 9, second half of the season.
Yes.
He's been a breakout wide receiver and took a year and a half, but he took the Trey McBride route, and that's how it went because he's been awesome. I don't think you have to start DK. I think it's kind of a Tyreek Hill situation again, which, by the way, L on me, dude, because Tyreek Hill must have seen that video because I was like, you don't have to start Tyreek Hill just because his name's Tyreek Hill. And then it was like,
well,
I'm back. Like it was like, okay, well, that's annoying.
I can redeem that though, because you said you'd rather have Tyreek Hill than CeeDee Lamb rest of the season when they both were just doing terrible. We both said,
and they both, I think they had similar output.
CeeDee has not
had like
been
21
as good
on Monday night. Okay.
So either way, that being said,
anyway,
so here's my answer to DK Metcalf here. Okay, I've got some really. This is one of the very few teams that made playoffs in. But you tell me, would you rather start DK Metcalf or Devonta Smith? First round of playoffs.
Oh man,
I'm gonna go.
Devontae got hurt. He came back. I'd probably go Devontae.
I'd rather go Devonta
I don't know. Hurts isn't throwing the ball. That's a really tough one. This was ready
against the Steelers, so who knows?
Yeah, historically, without Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith has been great, and he scored a touchdown. And then douchebag Calcaterra scored the other touchdown, so that was rude. Jalen Hurts threw 100 yards, so I don't know. That's close for me. I'd probably go Devonta Smith though.
Yeah, I think most people would agree. I think that's where we're at with DK Metcalf, where, he's been an impressive player over the years, but fantasy-wise, this has just not been it. And the ground game has been also fantastic with both Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet. So JSN has evolved as the wide receiver one. He's becoming the alpha. And you see Tyler Lockett had 1 target, 0 catches. And I was like, damn time. Finally. Yeah. I love Lockett. I think everyone loves Lockett, but you can bench DK Metcalf for fantasy playoffs. I think this is far less.
DK Metcalf for a stick.
So, I just mentioned Devonta Smith, okay? You don't need to.
Right.
That's the stick, the Slim Reaper. But this is far less controversial than Tyreek Hill, as far as you don't have to start him. So, you're in agreement, yes?
Yeah, I agree. DK is more of those conversations of DK or this guy is fine to have. That's it. Let's jump into Thursday night preview, and then we will close things out. Wes, we got Rams at Niners, division game. Always feels like a fun one with these guys whenever things go down. Rams coming off a big win. Niners coming off a big win. Must starts, risky starts, and don't starts. Guys, you have to have in the lineup. Risky starts, guys that we're not sure if you need to have them in there. We gotta have a consideration there. And then don't starts, get them out of the lineup. Wes, you start with your must start.
I thought I had to burp. That's why I paused, and I was like, I need to unleash some
we also got mouth stuff going on in this episode.
So, that's always good to just take out of context. Okay, so
doing mouth stuff.
Check out our Patreon. Whoa, no thanks.
Man. That one's behind a paywall. Yeah.
Here's the deal with this matchup. There are so many players that are going to be in lineups. This first round of fantasy playoffs is really dependent on these players. I think a lot of players have made playoffs because of people on both the Rams and the 49ers. So I have no problem saying a lot of these guys are must-starts. I can hear a case for all of them. So in my opinion, who can I make a case that you must start that isn't a complete layup? And I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford as a must start if you have him. If you don't have him, don't worry about it. I'm not saying he's my stud, but if you've got Stafford and you are wondering, I know his game he didn't do a lot in fantasy as amazing in fantasy as he could have been. He was QB8. But do I start him after this shootout against Buffalo for a chance to win the division? I say go for it. If you got Stafford, I think you go put him in your lineup, because you know what happened with the 49ers last time I played in week 3? He had 221 yards and 1 touchdown, and they won the game. That was fine. no Puka Nacua, no Cooper Kupp. Now he's got both. And did you see what happened with Puka and Kupp? They dominated. That's the Stafford that I thought could be top 10 on the season, because you and I both thought Cooper Kupp was an easy top 5 on the season.
Yeah.
Puka has proven to be one of the best wide receivers. I think we can go into the next year saying he's a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL.
Absolutely.
And there's an argument beginning to be made. So
yeah,
I
he should
Stafford,
be in the conversation with Jamar Chase, like with Jamar Chase, with Justin Jefferson. I think he's in that tier. I think he's better than AJ Brown. I'd take him over AJ Brown.
You're good.
In fantasy,
fantasy. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking like reality,
fully NFL terms, but yeah. I don't know.
In fantasy,
early for
Cooper Kupp is going to be a concern for me, because I think Puka Nacua is going to be like the primary guy. I think Puka is the guy, and I think Puka deserves to be first round again. And so that being said, I think Stafford deserves to be in your lineup if you got him. Don't go chase him on the waiver wire. And there's some obvious quarterbacks to start over Stafford, but I think that's the one that I'm going to put my stake in for first round of playoffs.
That's fair. I like it. My must start is Juwan Jennings. I talked about him already, the 2 down weeks, but without the blizzard and without Brock Purdy, he has been awesome since he returned. He's stepped into the top receiver role for Brock Purdy, the top pass catcher role for Brock Purdy. He's been awesome. Elite wide receiver rest of season. In my opinion, he must be in lineups for Thursday night. Start out your fantasy playoffs strong with Juwan Jennings. He's my must start.
Yeah, and when you shared the stats again, it's been phenomenal, and I'm excited to see him continue to be great. I hope he's great next year as well. And we will be.
I don't think Debo will be there, so I think that's going to contribute. And I wonder how early Brandon Ayuk will be ready. So I think Juwan Jennings, depending on where he goes in drafts, is going to be very, very valuable, especially at the start of the year. Yeah.
I like it a lot, and I like it. I think both the players we said are players that people are asking the question, should I start? And this is why I like when we don't just say like start Puka Nacua. It's like Durhay, obviously. Okay, risky starts. He really, for me, this is my risky start. He really should be a don't start, but I can make the case that it's a risk, and I think the risky start is Deebo Samuel, and it's risky because we know how he does against the Rams, and this is an important matchup, and there's no Christian McCaffrey, and now another running back is hurt for his team, and you'd like to believe that there is a chance that he gets some handoffs and some jet sweeps and some weird trick plays to help him get the freaking football again. But obviously, he's been so bad. He hasn't had a double-digit game since week 10. He's been terrible. He's been terrible. Yeah. And this is the guy that you and I were complaining about last season, going into last year. We're like, this guy's such a fluke. You kidding me? Like, he had so many of his opportunities on the ground game with Christian McCaffrey. There's no way he's going to. And then he had a great season still. We're like, well, maybe. It's like, no, this is the guy. So I think it's a bad risk, but I'm not going to say don't start him, because I can see somehow, some way against the Rams, which he did not play them earlier this year. The Debo could just find a way to do what he does against the Rams and end up with 25 points for no reason, and then we're all kicking ourselves. But I don't like it. It's still a risk. My risky start.
Yeah, that's fair. My risky start is Patrick Taylor / Israel Abanikanda. Just don't know the workload's going to look like. I'm a little concerned there. It might be tough if you're in a situation where you had McCaffrey or Mason. You missed him. You spent all your fab on Garendo. You don't have him. Now you're in a desperate spot and you have to play Patrick Taylor. I get it. It might be a little bit scary. I just don't know what the workload is going to look like, what the split is going to look like. It's a risk, and you're hoping he finds the end zone. I think that's kind of just where you have to be at with them. But I don't love that Purdy's been rushing the football more. And I just, if you can, I would stay away. I think it's hard because it's early, but like if I heard early on that Alexander Madison was going to be out again and Zamir White was going to be out again, I'd probably rather start a guy like Sincere McCormick and just hope for getting those 10 points than go with Patrick Taylor or Israel Abanikanda. So risky starts are the San Francisco running backs not named Isaac Guerrero, really.
Yeah. And you'd like to say like, well, don't start in first round of playoffs, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Do you have a choice? Yeah.
Yeah. Shanahan is the running back whisperer, it appears to be. Don't starts. I've really been thinking, man. I'm really thinking. I don't have anybody. I don't think there's no one you shouldn't start. I've never done this. But of the main starters that we are rostering, okay? Because obviously Rams tight end we're not rostering. And Demarcus Robinson's hurt, so it doesn't count anymore. I'm not going to go down the depth chart to find just someone to say don't start for on the Rams. And the same with the 49ers. You make the case for the running backs. I can't say don't start them because, oh my gosh, Christian McCaffrey, obviously, and then there's Jordan Mason, who saved people's seasons, and then there's Isaac Guerrero, and who knows? Who knows? I think Israel Abanikanda is great. Kind of got cheated out of New York with all the draft picks they kept getting for running backs, but I can't name anybody you shouldn't start. Brock Purdy's been on fire. He had one down game in a blizzard against Buffalo. Other than that, it's okay. Since week 6, Brock Purdy, QB6, QB8, QB4, QB5, QB12, blizzard game, QB6. He's been on fire. George Kittle had another great game. I mean, and Debo's my risk. So there's no one I don't think you shouldn't start. I have a guess who your don't start is, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Don't start Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
I hate that dude. Same notes as last week with Laporta. I hate that dude. Don't start him.
Yeah.
He had tweeted out earlier on Monday.
Who did?
Something like Debo. He was like not slowing down, like nothing wrong, just not getting the ball or like whatever. And it was like, you don't look like the same player that we've known before, but okay.
Yeah.
He just doesn't look like as like he used to run through tackles so much, and he just doesn't look like, I don't know if he's injured or if the injury is hindering him more than we realize or what it is. But don't start Deebo Samuel. Hate that dude so much. Hate that guy. Anyway, that's it. Let us know if you made the fantasy playoffs. We want to celebrate you. If you didn't, let us know what happened. Did you get screwed out in week 14? Something happened and you just lost out and you lost it. But let us know, and we're happy to talk to you. Make sure you're following us on all our socials. We're always posting stuff there, and we want to connect with you guys there as well. We want to sign James Cook jersey. Patreon.com/4thcontrolfantasy. And you can buy our merch at fourthcontrolstore.com. That's it. And we will see you on Friday for a playoff primer, getting you ready for the fantasy playoffs with some studs and duds for week 1 of the playoffs. It's going to be a fun time. We will see you then. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been Fourth and Troll Fantasy. Fourth and Troll Fantasy is a production of FQ Media Group and Selby Artistic Workshop.